Okay, guys, I think that we can continue, right? I think we can continue. So we actually, I hope you can hear from me, please. Hello? Hello, can you hear from me? Hello?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
That's okay, let me move quick. So the next one is 15%, 0.15 times 654,500. That gives me 98175. The next one is 0.3, right? 0.3 times 654,500. And that gives me 196,350. So you see, in this question, the examiner never gave you, he has given the total cost pool to be, or total production overhead cost to be 654,500. But in activity-based costing, we do not jangle all the total production overhead as one. We are supposed to see the different types of the overheads, right? So this 654,500 you see here, part of this total overhead is setup costs. Part of this overhead is machinery cost. Part of this overhead is machine handling cost. Part of this overhead is inspection cost. So with activity-based cost, it will separate all the overheads. But absorption cost will put all the overheads as one, 654,500, and do the calculation. But that is bad to do. So activity-based cost will not jangle all the production overhead as one and use it in calculation. No, it will say that the overheads are different. So let me separate each and every one of them and treat them separately. That is activity-based costing. So you can see clearly that the examiner, instead of giving us the total value straight away, he intentionally gave us the total of the overhead, which is the cost pool, and he gave us percentages to multiply the total to get the corresponding values, because we said cost pools are in monetary values. So over here, the first cost pool is setup cost is 229,075. The second cost pool is machinery cost, that is 130,900. The next cost pool is material handling, 98,175. The last cost pool is inspection, 196,350. 196,350. That's okay. So as we have cost pools, which are step one, then step two says that determine, after you have determined each cost pool, which is monetary value, determine their corresponding what? Cost drivers. So the first cost pool is setup. So what will be its cost driver? So number of setups becomes its cost what? Driver. Let's look at cost pool. So cost pool here is what? The cost pool here is the monetary value 229,075. Its cost driver is what? Number of setups. We move on. The next one is machine cost. Machine cost is 130,900. So here we do not say there should be number of machines. No, it shouldn't be number of machine, but it's going to be machine what? Hours. So this item, its corresponding is going to machine, because the examiner give us the machine hours. Do not forget that. So that is going to be machine what? Hours. Here, the first one we said is the number of what? Setups. Number of setups. Then in the case of material handling, the examiner has given us material handling to be number of what? Movement of materials. Material handling, he says number of movement of materials. That's already given us that element, so we can move on, right? So material handling cost driver is going to be a number of movements. Number of movements of materials. Number of movements of materials. And the next one, inspection, is number of what? Inspection. Number of inspection. Number of inspections. Right. So the number of inspections have also been given to us here. That means you're in good shape, you can calculate. That's it. So we move on. So we have The examiner has given us this bit of information already. As you can see, 229075 is the cost pool for setup, and its corresponding cost driver is number of setups. As you can see here, number of setups highlighted. Then the cost pool for machine cost is 130,900, and its cost driver is what? Machine hours. Sorry, machine hours. And the machine hours, you have the machine hours already given to you above. And the next one is what? Is material handling cost, and its cost driver is number of movement of materials. Number of movement of materials. And the last cost pool is inspection cost, 196,350. And its cost driver is number of inspections, which has been given here. So we have the cost pool, every cost pool and its cost driver, corresponding cost driver. We are good shape. We are to move on to step 3. Calculate each cost driver rate. Case close. So over here, I'm just going to walk you through the solution so that at least you move quickly, right? I'm just going to walk you through the solution. Do not think it's a waste of time, right? What you are doing is very necessary. In the case of products, in the case of II, we decided to estimate the total machine hours. The examiner gave the machine hours per unit, but we do not need the per unit. We need the total of the machine hours. So how did the examiner get this 750, 1250? Because they have given us the machine hours for 1 unit. If you want to get the total machine hours for the product, you multiply by the total output, right? If you want to get the total machine hours, right? You want to get the total machine hours. The total machine hours here is that, right? So in the case of 1125, how did we get it? It was the machine hours per unit, which is 1.5 times the number of units produced for machine for product D, which is 750. So 1.5 times 750 is 1125. 1 times 1250 will give you 1250. Then 3 times 7,000 will give you 21,000. That gives us a total machine hours of 23,375. So we decided to move on to analysis. See, we decided to solve this item one after the other. We decided to calculate an analysis of the overhead absorption rate, right? Calculating the cost driver rate, which is also called overhead absorption rate. You have to determine the cost pool and the cost driver. So we have already done that per what you have seen clearly. These are all the cost what pools, and the total should give us the same 65,4,500. 65,4,500 should give you the total, right? This cost pool should give you the total, right? Then what are the corresponding cost drivers? Their corresponding cost drivers sums out a total like here. So at the end of the day, to get the cost driver rate, this cost driver rate, it is the cost pool over the cost driver. Cost pool here over cost driver. So let's look at the first one. How the examiner got it? How the examiner got this figure? How did the examiner get this 341.90? How did he get that? So he said that the cost driver rate, the cost driver rate is equal to the cost pool, the cost pool over the cost driver, That is how to calculate all the cost drivers, right? These values here, that is how to calculate them. These values here, that's how to calculate them. So in the case of the first item, its cost pool was 229,075. Then you divide by the number of what cost drivers. Here it is 670. So when you calculate, you can multiply and see if you not get 341.90. Then we come to the next item. The next item, its cost driver is 130,900. You divide by its cost pool, which is 23,375. I hope you know where we got it from. We've already gone through that calculation. You get your answer also, which is 5.6. These are meters. We are calculating meters that we use in charging, right? Then we come to the next one, this 818.13. How did he get it? It was 98175 divided by what? 120, right? That's how they got it. The last one, how did they get it? It was 196,350 divided by 1,000. You can do that, divided by 1,000, and see if you not get the same answer. So these are the ways the examiner actually used in getting that. If you divide these two, you get this 196, that bit. That is how we go through, right? Good. So I think we're in good shape. How to get these ones is a matter of multiplying the percentages by the total, then you fill this side. The cost drivers have been estimated 670, 23375, 120. Where did you get this 670? Here being a little bit inquisitive for us to understand the solution. Where did the examiner get the 670? Where is he getting it? You know, number of inspections have been given to us. In the case of product P, they said the number of inspection is what? 670, that bit. If you don't take care, you might confuse yourself with this, right? The examiner is saying that the cost driver is number of setup, and the total number of setups is 670. Here, the total number of setups is what? 120. Sorry, the total number of movements in materials is 120. And the last one, and these are all cost drivers. Number of inspection is a cost driver. So here the cost driver is 670. Here the cost driver is 120. Here the cost driver is 1,000. And the 23,375 we got was also a cost driver. So you actually realize that we've computed all those bits, right? So that is why we have these elements over here, right? That's why we have them. So I've showed you where the examiner got this 670 from. I've showed you where the examiner got it. It was a cost driver for number of what setups. That is the setup cost. And this 23,375 is also what? The machine cost. Its cost driver being number of what machine hours. And I've showed you how to calculate the total. The next 120 was the cost driver for machine handling cost. And the last bit, 1,000, is the cost driver for inspection. And that was the total number of what inspections, right? So after calculating the cost driver, each cost driver rate, after calculating each cost driver rate, the cost driver rates are the meters, which we use in charging overhead. After getting the meter, you just go to each and every one house. You look at whatever quantity that he has used. You apply the meter to it. Then you give him his cost. And that is exactly what the ECG is actually using to determine electricity bill. There's all the time what? A cost driver rate or an overhead absorption rate, which is a meter. And they'll come to your house, look at the number of hours and the number of watts you have used in terms of energy consumption. Then they apply it to it, the meter to the number of items. They say, this is your bill. The same way in the case of what? Ghana Water Company, in terms of the number of water you have used, they have what? A meter, they apply it to it, then they tell you the cost. And the same bid overhead techniques is actually telling us, right? Before you can charge overhead, you have to get a meter. Then you can now apply the meter to what has actually happened. What has actually happened is the basis of absorption, right? So we come straight away into this technique, which is total overhead. I can see Michael Danso join. That's good, bro. That's good, right? So total overheads by product and per unit. So we have product D, right? So we have setup cost. The overheads, we are trying to apportion. If you have the meter, you now have to multiply. We've actually talked about this in the other video lecture. So in the case of setups, we have estimated all that for the product, for product C, product D, and P. So the base of absorption is 75. You use that 75 to multiply the basis, right? Which was 341. Setup, we have dealing with setup, right? So in the case of the cost driver rates for setup, you got 341.90. You use to multiply the cost driver. Sorry, you use to multiply the cost driver. That is what influences the cost. So 341.90 times 75 will give you that 25. Will give you that 25643. So let me do that here. 341 dot. You can also do that at your end, right? Dot 75. Then you come in. Please, I didn't get that. Then we will help you. So if you get the meter, you now multiply by the activity level. So over here, we've got 341.9. So what you do is that if I've gotten the cost driver, you now multiply by the rate straight away. So here in the case of product C, let me do the setup. It appears that how the examiner has presented it, students will not get it. So setup, You remember that the setup, you have already calculated it. So I'm not going to calculate it. The cost drive, the setup cost driver rate for setup, cost driver rate for setup. I'm just starting afresh, right? Because I'll do one and I'll not do the rest. Cost pool over the cost driver. Cost pool over cost driver. So in the case of the setup cost, we are starting afresh, right? If I to calculate the cost driver rate, then you absorb. I'm going to do that. So the cost pool for setup, where did we get that figure? We already calculated that. The cost pool for setup, you got 229075. So I just pick it up here and use it in my calculation. That's 229075. That's the cost pool, and the cost driver is the number of setups. And how did I get that? It is 75 plus 115 plus 480, right? So that is going to give you the same 229075 divided by 670. You can add, right? The examiner has already done that for you. 75 plus 115 plus 480 will give you 670, right? So that is what we have done that. And by dividing, we got 341. What value was that? 341.9. You can do it also at your end. If it is not that, Henry is not that, right? So per setup. 341, this is a monetary value. Let me just say, let me use, let's say, dollars, right? So $341.90 per setup. Now, this is a meter you have gotten for what? This overhead. So if after getting the meter, what do? You go and what? Charge the cost. So I've gotten the cost driver rate, which is the meter. Just go and charge the cost of the overhead. Right, I'm going to do that. So in the case of product D, so I have product D was the first. We have product C, product C. Then we have product P. I think there has been a change, right? DC, okay, DCP, right? So I think I'm right. So after getting the meter for setup, what do? We are now going to what? Charge the overhead. So I come, setup cost. You get the meter, you are ready to charge. Okay, so in the case of product D, how do you get the charge? It is, so you see, please look at what is happening. When you get the meter, you come back and use to multiply the individual denominators. So 341.90 will multiply 75. That will be for product D. 341.90 will be used to multiply 115 for product C. 341.90 will multiply 480. 480 for product what? P. So the same denominator which you use to get the answer, 341, you use the answer to come and multiply back the denominators. I actually divided, you see, 75 plus 115 plus 480 gave me 670. And that gave me 341.90. After getting my answer, 341.90, I have to come back and use to multiply the individual denominators. So in the under product D, it is going to be what? How do I estimate that? It is going to be, I got 341, right? The meter is 341.0 dot 90, sorry. I'll use that one to multiply what? 75. And that will give me the first one for product what? D. Then what about product C? In the case of product C, I'll use the meter, which is 341.90 to multiply 115. So you see, it's the denominator, you got the answer, use the answer to come and multiply back the individual denominators. So in the case of product P, what do? I'll use the meter, 341.90 to come back to multiply 480. That is it. The same way. That is it. Easy thing to do. Now, let's just say that I want to move further to also calculate cost driver for another item. I've finished with setup. If I was to look at number of inspection, what do? I also have to calculate cost driver for number of inspection. So let's see if we can do that the second. So cost driver rate for inspection. How do I do that? I need a cost pool for inspection divided by the cost driver. So what is the cost pool for inspection? We have already gotten it above. Let's just move in quickly. Inspection, we got it to be what? The last item, 196,350. As you can see here, 196,350. And its cost driver is number of inspections. So 196,350. That is it. So let me be quick. 196,350 divided by number of what? Inspections. Number of inspections are given here. We have the first one to be 150. Second one is 180. Third one is 670. Please, I'm not doing anything. I'm just using the information the examiner has given to me, right? So it will give me a total of 196,350 divided by 1,000. And don't forget that the answer is what? That is in dollars, 196.350. I think that will be the answer, right? 0.350. Now, after getting the meter, I've gotten also a meter for inspection. I just used to multiply the individual denominators. Where are the individual denominators? The individual denominators is 150. Oh, sorry. Where is it? I think I have to move a little bit up there. Oh, sorry. That is what happens when you keep on explaining, right? Okay, that is fine. So we use this 196.35 to come and multiply 150. Then that will give us for the first product, which is D. You pick this 196.35 to come and multiply 180. That will give you for what? Product C. You pick this 196.35 to come and multiply back what? The system. So you can see that after getting the meter, you come back and use it to multiply the individual elements in the denominator. That is how to absorb overhead. Simple. Divide something over something. The answer you have gotten, come back and use to multiply the individual denominators. I don't see this to be what? A big deal. Get the answer, cost pool over cost driver. As you have gotten the answer by dividing cost pool over cost driver, just like here you have gotten 196.35. Use the 196.35 to come back to multiply the individual elements in the denominator. That is absorption. So in the case of product, so this will be what? Inspection cost. After getting the meter, you go and charge. That is what the Ghana Water Company does. Immediately they have their meter, they come to your house and charge you. Look at the number of water you've used and charge you your cost. You are supposed to pay for that. You can't run away. So 0.35 times, in the case of product D, how many have they used? 150. So we give you your charge. In the case of product C, the meter is 196.35. How many have product C used? 180. My friend, come for your cost. The next person is product D. The meter is 196.35. Product D, how many have you used? 670. Come for your charge. Case closed. You see, I'm making the thing interesting. I'm making the thing bring in understanding. And these things are not difficult, but the student all the time makes it what? Difficult. No, I just decided to do one or two for you, right? I'm not giving you the entire solution, but the solution is in there. You can have a look at it. But probably when I decided to use the solution to work things out, the student, a particular student was probably might not get it, was not getting it. So I decided to come in here and do that explanation before I now go back and get my issues done. So if I should multiply 341.90 here by 75, I get 25642.5. If I use 341 to multiply 155, let me be quick. Please, you can also do it at your end, but I think I'm in good shape, right? 155. That gives me 52, 52, 994.5. This is the same bit we do in ACCA, we do in ICA, we do in CIMA. So it's the same bit, right? No matter wherever you are, it's the same bit. Some of the professional qualifications do not even go further. You just do 1 or 2 and then go their way. So 196.35 times 150. I'm just inputting the figures by calculation. I've already inputted that base, so at least I move on. 0.35 times 150, that gives me 29,452.5. I can move on. I want to show you how the examiner got the answer. I've demonstrated it to guide you because a student will probably be wondering how the examiner did it. If you look at the solution up there, if you don't really understand, please, it is going to be a problem, right? The last one, 670, then I'm off. 670, that gives me 131,554.5. Good. So please, all that you have to do is to just get the meter for all the overheads. Then you come and what? Absorb. Simple. We have a lot of them, but we have only gone through setup cost, getting the meter and absorbing. Inspection cost, you have gotten the meter and you have absorbed. You are supposed to do that for the remaining, right? Good. But let me just walk you through the solution by the examiner because there's no time. So these are the ways that the examiner actually went through to calculate it, right? These are the ways the examiner went through to calculate it, and it's the same answers that you have gotten. So he got the cost driver rates, he got them, and he used it to multiply the individual elements, right? Good. The individual elements are the first one. He has indicated that they are core activity. Anything you see here as an activity are the individual elements, which are the drivers. So he will come back and use the meters to multiply it. So the case of how did he get this 25643? It was the cost driver rate for the setup, which is 341.9. He used to multiply this. That's the way he actually went through those rates. So that is how to go through, right? So you get that. And the same way in the case of the activity levels for PODA C, whatever answer you get, you come back to multiply it. The same way in the case of PODA P, you come back to multiply them. So after adding or getting all your figures, all these costs, you add all of them. So under setup, you add all the lines on the setup. It is 25643, 39319, 164,113, and that ends it. They are just 3 elements. So 25643, 39319, and 164,113 will give us this total. That is how we go by that, right? But we need it to be per unit. So what we have to do is that after getting the total cost, so in the case of PODA D, we have the total cost to be 77213. You divide by the number of units. So here, the total cost is 77213, but the total unit they produced was 750. So you divide this cost by the 750, right? So that is how you go by that. So the cost per unit will be calculated as the total cost divided by what? Number of units. Divided by number of units. So in this regard, the total cost under, I'm showing you how the examiner got this figure. This 94.95, I'm showing you how he got it. So over there, the total cost was 77213, and the number of units he produced was 750. So you just divide that, right? So I have it here. The total cost here was 77,213 divided by the number of units produced, which is 750. And that will give you 94.95. That is what? The overhead cost per unit. The same way you do that for what? This overhead cost per unit. So the total overhead cost was 98843. And the number of units they produced was 1250. So you divide the 98843 by 1250. Then get a 79. You get this 79,007. The next one, the total overhead is 484,444. And the number of units is what? 7,000. So you divide the overhead cost by the number of units, then you end up getting what? 69.21. So at the end of the day, you actually input the overhead cost in your solution, right? You input the overhead cost in your solution to get the overall answer. So just like above, let me take you up there. Just like above, what to do is that in your solution, it's still going to be the same. So put a D, put a D, put a C, and product P. These are the product. So material cost is still the same because I've indicated that we do not use activity-based costing or absorption costing to look at the valuation of labor cost or material cost. We only use it to determine the valuation of overhead. It came in the paper for us to learn because of the valuation of overhead. I said we have labor cost, we have material cost, we have overhead cost. We do not learn absorption cost or marginal costing or activity-based costing for valuation of material or labor. We actually learned it in the valuation of overhead. And look at how we struggled as management accountants to bring in activity-based costing. First of all, we started with marginal costing. It was having weakness. It came to what? Absorption costing. Absorption costing was having weakness. And then came activity-based costing. We've talked about those nitty-gritties in already our recorded lecture. And please, you have to refer to that for much clarity. To refer to that for much clarity. Sorry, know what I'm talking about materiality over here because there's been a whole lot of issues, right? So direct labor and overhead cost is going to change. Overhead, right? So the direct material is constant. In the case of product D is 20. In the case of product C is 12. In the case of product P is what, 25. Direct labor, I've showed you how we calculated it, isn't it? The direct labor cost, we got it to be, was it 20, was it 3? It was 3, 9, sorry, 9 and 6. But the overhead will change. So at the time, I expect students to put this into bracket working. You go and work, then you come back. After we've gone through the working, so we are fine. We have gone through the working. In the case of product D, we got 94.95. So I go back and slot it in. We got 94.95. So I got 94.95. In the case of product C, what answer did we get? In the case of product C, we got 79.07. So I'll go up there. Is it 94.07? Turns out to forget again. That is 79.07. Then I think the other one we got 69.21. So at the end of the day, you can find the totals to get the total cost. So I can do that. The last item, I can also underline them, right? So the total cost under activity-based cost, I can add them 20 plus 3 plus 94.95. So 23 plus 94.95. That gives me 117. So 117.95. The next one, what else are we getting? That is 21. 21 plus 79.07. What do you do, for example, to be very quick, right? 100.07. So for teaching us to be quick, why are you not quick? That's 1 plus 69.21. That gives us 100.21, right? Oh, sorry. There's been a mistake a little bit. Got it. Bring it out here. Zoom, up there. So look at it carefully. The first answers over here was when we use absorption costing. Absorption costing. When we use absorption costing, these are the answers we have gotten. I've highlighted them in 3 vertical yellow lines. When we decide to use activity-based costing, now you have gotten new answers. And activity-based costing, put a D, what is the total cost you are getting? Oh, sorry. You are getting 117, right? You are getting 117.95. But what answer do we get under absorption cost? You go 65. Now, activity-based costing under C, we got 100.07. Under product C, what answer do we get? We got what? 49. Activity-based costing under product P, we got what? We got a value of 100.21. Under product P, absorption cost, what are we getting? 115. So you can see clearly that because the assumptions of activity-based cost and assumption costing are different, you will not get the same answer. The differences lies in the overhead cost. The differences lies in the overhead cost. For material cost and labor cost, we do not use absorption cost and activity-based costing to determine valuation of material and labor cost. So if you are solving a question on absorption cost and activity-based costing, material cost and labor cost under both methods will be the same. It is the overhead which is going to change because actually we brought in absorption costing and activity-based costing to help in the valuation of overhead. So it should change. The overhead should change when you tend to move from either absorption cost to activity-based costing or activity-based costing to absorption costing. We do not use absorption costing or activity-based costing to look at valuation of material or labor. I've already talked about that, right? So the examiner also went through those nitty-gritties. He got the same answers, right? He got the same answers. What were the answers he got? He got 117.95. He got 100.07. Then he got finally 100.21, right? So that was that aspect of the question. Let's move in quickly so that we bring the meeting for today to an end. I've shared this manual with you, 26 pages, a lot of questions on activity-based costing. If we're able to go through, that means you are fine with activity-based costing, right? B says calculate the cost per using activity-based cost. You have done that. A was saying calculate the cost per unit use absorption costing. Please let me end. They will come in. B, calculate the cost per unit using activity-based costing. We've done that for A, we've done that for B. Please come in your question before you look at the theory.
With the ABC and the absorption, you didn't tell us the reason why they had the different answers.
I didn't tell you why they have the different answers. I think I've explained that through the workings. I've explained to you why we have the workings. The workings is actually conforming.
Not the workings. I'm talking about the different answers, like with the use of ABC and a absorption costing.
That is
they all have different.
That is part C, and you are yet to go to part C.
Oh, okay, you say that in part. Okay.
Explain why cost per unit under activity-based costing are often very different to cost per unit calculated under more traditional methods. Use the information from Triple Limited to illustrate 4 marks. So over here, we are now looking at why we have the differences in the overheads under activity-based costing and under absorption costing. Now, one of the limitations we talked about earlier on was that in the case of absorption costing, it uses the volume of production to determine the overhead cost. And the higher the volume of production, the higher the overhead cost. So that is one of the limitations over here, right? Good. But let's just move in quickly to the solution. Let's just move in quickly to the solution. I think I have some few seconds, but notwithstanding, we have the solution over here, right? So the examiner decided to bring in those figures. The overhead cost per unit as summarized below together with the volume of production, because he actually used that to actually explain, right? So the volume of production for product D was 750, 12507 7,000 for DCP, as you can see. And with the use of absorption costing, what were the overhead costs we got? 42, 28, 84. But what about using activity-based costing? What were the overhead costs we got? 95, 79, 69. What is the examiner saying? The results of the change to activity-based costing is clear. The overhead cost of D and C have risen, whilst that of